Stream. I'm Pugs Moran. I do this every Monday through Friday at 12 p.m. Central Standard Time, high noon. That's why we call it that. That was no accident. What do we do here? We go through all the headlines, current events, hot topics, whatever it is that people are buzzing about, if it's happening in the world today, if it's newsworthy, if it's a thing, we'll cover it here. Here's what we don't do. We don't get into divisive politics. We don't do red versus blue. We don't do any of that nonsense. I hate that nonsense. If you want that garbage, you can go find any struggling AM talk radio station in America and can hear just endless people screaming about how you voted. That's not what we do here. This is about all the other stuff. All the other stuff that we can talk about. All the other stuff. Hey, it appears that the chat room is back up and working. Hi, Jeff Ballard. Hi, Cameron. Michael. This is very good. The chat room, the chat system that we use to interact during this show hasn't been working for the last couple of days. What up, Byron? Hasn't been working the last couple of days, but it seems to be working now. So that's all very exciting. All right. This is the first of two streams that I do every day. I also do one at 9 p.m. That's 9 p.m. Central Standard Time. We call that one the Pillow Talk edition. That's myself and James Parker. Pugs and Parker proudly present Pillow Talk every night, Monday through Thursday at 9 p.m. Guess what's happening? Right about here, there's a hiccup. Right about here. I can feel it. Ah! And there he was. Unbelievable. And it only happens at the start of the show. I'm wondering if I could trick myself. Now, those of you who come here every day, you know that this happens every day around the start of the show. Not every day. I had gone on like a 5-week run where I didn't have the hiccups to start the year 2023. I was very happy about that. And then all of a sudden, for the last 4 days, I've been getting hiccups as the show starts. So I'm wondering if I could trick myself. Like, can I like start the show? Like, what if I pretended to start the show? Did actually start the show, but like pretended to at like 11:45, so that then the hiccups would come at like 11:55 and they'd be over by 12 when I actually start the show for real. Geez, this is a bad one. All right, I got to do the thing. I got to go away. Be right back. Do you know why I turned the camera off? And these are bad. These are not going away. You know, I turned the camera off because I think it's funny to imagine you people just like listening for each hiccup. Because I don't know. Theater of the mind. Here we go. One more time. All right, I'm going to legitimately try and kill these hiccups here. Here we go. Oh, God, that didn't work. Hold on. Let's reset. I don't know. I think they might be gone, but I don't know. Does the screen animate? Does it like pulse? Like if that's what I was hoping for. Like when the camera is down, but you just see the logo. Like every time I hiccup, does it go? Eh? All right, hiccups seem to be gone. All right, I seem to have beaten them. All right, I apologize. I hate when that happens, and I don't know why it's been happening for like the last week. Again, I blame the chair. I think it has something to do with this chair in the way that I sit down here because I do not get the hiccups ever at any other point in my life other than every day at around 12:05 when I sit down here and I start to speak for the first time of the day. Then the hiccups come and then they go away and we're fine. All right, let's get started with what today's show is. High noon, Monday through Friday, current events, hot topics, all that stuff. We tell you all about the day. That's the purpose of this show. I try to bring you a full, well-rounded picture of what this particular day is. And in order to do that, I feel we have to accept and understand what this day has been. So we do this in stages. First, we talk about the history of today. We go through some of the more interesting things that have occurred on this edition of March the 7th throughout history. Then we do the birthdays. We talk about people who were born today. We go over their accomplishments and stuff like that. And then we mourn some of the people who have passed. Unless they were a dipshit, then, we just kind of make fun of them or whatever. But that's what it is. And then after we're done with those two segments, the history and the births and deaths, those are two segments that we begin the show with. After we're done with those two, then I feel we have a well-rounded idea of what this day has been. And so we move forward with the topics of the day. So without further ado, let's get into today's edition of High Noon. It is the 7th day of March, year of our Lord 2023. March 7th is the 66th day of the year. There are 299 days remaining until the end of the year. In history, on this day, let's go all the way back to the year 161. I don't even know if that's like AD. What does one say? Is it AD or BC? I don't know. Marcus Aurelius and L. Commodus, who changes his name to Lucius Verus, become joint emperors of Rome upon the death of Antonius Pius. All right, so Marcus Aurelius, I don't know anything about, this period of Rome, right? I saw the HBO series Rome, and that basically just dealt with, Julius Caesar and his family and stuff. So I don't know. All I can tell you is that I bet you Marcus Aurelius and Lucius Verus didn't get along well as they share. I'm just guessing. That's just a guess. And by the way, Lucius Verus, cooler name than El Comatos. That's what his name was. His name was El Commodus. And then he changed it to Lucius Verus. All right, so that happened on 161. 1799, Napoleon Bonaparte captured Haifa in Palestine. That was when he was running through North Africa and the Middle East, and he was stealing all the things. He found cool shit at the Sphinx and stuff, and he brought all that stuff home. On this day in 1876, Alexander Graham Bell is granted a patent for an invention he calls the telephone. That's right, the telephone, ladies and gentlemen. Hey, he's a liar if you believe The Sopranos, as I do. The phone was invented by an Italian guy, and Alexander Graham Bell stole it from him. On this day in 1965, Bloody Sunday, that was on this day in American history, a group of 600 civil rights marchers are brutally attacked by state and local police in Selma, Alabama. That was on this day in 1965, Bloody Sunday. On this day in 1986, the Challenger disaster. Okay, remember? So the Challenger exploded in January. And it was on this day that they finally found the capsule compartment at the bottom of the ocean. Divers from the USS Preserver locate the crew cabin of the Challenger on the ocean floor on this day in 1986. Howdy, y'all. Howdy, Dustin. For those of you who missed my serious bout of hiccups at the start of the show, don't be dissuaded, because I feel like there is another bout of hiccups that are coming right around the bend. Sorry, I can feel it. It's like a pressure that begins here. On this day in 2007, reform of the House of Lords The British House of Commons votes to make the upper chamber, the House of Lords, 100% elected. That was in 2007. That's good. If you think about it like this, it's not the same thing, but if you think about it like this, so there are two chambers there in the British Parliament. There's the lower house and the upper house. Very similar to what we have here in the United States. We have a lower house, Congress, and an upper house, the Senate. The only difference is that in England, their upper house is called the House of Lords. And those people don't need to run for nothing. Well, I mean, they do now, because on this day in 2007, they said, you know what, maybe the Lords ought to be elected too. But the Lords, the House of Lords was always like an appointed group of people who were somehow, in some line of royalty or monarchy or something. There's something about House of Lords. They're like the special people, and they were put there to watch over the commoners, who are the elected MPs, the members of Parliament in the House of Commons. So it was on this day in 2007, the reform of the House of Lords in England. British House of Commons votes to make the upper chamber 100% elected as well. Let's get into some birthdays. Born on this day in 1934, Willard Scott, American television personality and actor. He died in 2021. Sadly, Willard Scott became famous for being the guy on TV who celebrated people's 100th birthdays, and he didn't make it. On this day, born on this day in 1938, Janet Guthrie, American professional race car driver, first woman to qualify and compete in both the Indianapolis 500 and the Daytona 500. She never won. Auto racing is one of these. It's competition. Is it enough? Yeah, it is. It is. They're athletes. All right, I don't want to get into the whole thing, but women sort of being integrated into the world of auto racing is not like, integrating women into NFL football, right? Women, I don't think we're going to see women play NFL football. I think because, you're talking about genetics and biology and, size differences and stuff. Like, maybe, who knows? All I'm saying is that women can compete against men on equal footing in the sport of auto racing, and yet women have never won. Whether we're talking about Danica Patrick, we're talking about Janet Guthrie here, they've never won. And that's not because women aren't as good at drivers as men. It's because over time, no woman has ever gotten a good ride. No woman. Danica Patrick had, I guess, didn't she run with Penske in IRL for like a season or whatever? But these people, they're all like, I'd like to see a woman, like a good woman driver in like a top team on like a Formula One. Like, we don't have any women in Formula One, but if we had women in Formula One, I'd like to see a woman drive a Red Bull. I'd like to see what a woman could do, a good skilled female driver in a machine. That is just because auto racing, even if you're just talking about a field full of guys, it's not fair. There are certain cars that are just better than the other cars. So those better cars are going to win regardless of the skill level of the driver. The Formula One season just started last week, and it's the exact, I love Formula One, but it's the exact same thing as it's been for the last couple of years. There is Red Bull, there's Ferrari, and there's Mercedes. There's three teams. That's basically the only three teams with any real, maybe Alfa Romeo, teams with any real ability to win a Formula One race. And then there's like 15 other teams that are also out there racing. So, it's cool. Right? I mean, Janet Guthrie, it's cool. It's great. But, I've heard people say, like, when they talk about Danica Patrick and Janet Guthrie and stuff like that, it's like, well, no woman's ever been good. That is such a disingenuous statement to make, because it's not about whether or not the driver's good. It's about the ride they got. I don't think, didn't Danica Patrick break into racing with a car that like her family built? But I guess that's the way a lot of them start. But a lot of them have, big funding and they get big rides. I don't know. I'm sure, I believe that at some point we will see like the top auto racer in the world could be a woman. I just think a woman needs to get a good ride. Janet Guthrie, born on this day. She was like a trailblazer for female race car drivers. Born on this day in 1940. Here's a trailblazer for Italian men. Daniel J. Travanti, American actor. Daniel J. Travanti. Daniel J. Travanti was like a big star, like between like, let's say 83 and 87, right? Like between 83 and 87, Daniel J. Trevante was a big star. It was Frank Furillo on Hill Street Blues. He was the star of like the most critically acclaimed television, and then he did nothing. Like, didn't you think Daniel J. Trevante would be like an actor? You know how like Clooney went from like TV to... I thought Daniel J. Trevante was going to be a big actor. He wasn't. He did nothing else. Daniel J. Trevante, Frank Furillo. Born on this day in 1940. Happy birthday to you. Born on this day in 1942, Tammy Faye Mesner, American evangelist, television personality, and talk show host. I love Tammy Faye. Tammy Faye was awesome. Every time Tammy Faye comes up, I tell you about how awesome Tammy Faye was. She was so nice. Born on this day in 1944, Townes Van Zandt, American singer-songwriter, under-the-radar singer-songwriter, unless, of course, you're a big fan of, like, really cool Americana music. That's what Townes Van... Pancho and Lefty, right? Wasn't he Merle and Willie? Didn't they do that? Then it's like Townes Van Zandt's biggest song. Anyway, Townes Van Zandt, born on this day in 1944. He died in 1997. Born on this day in 1946. Died in 2017. It's another guy. Didn't know he was dead until today. This happens to me all the time. I go through these birthday lists and then I see that these people have died and I'm like, oh no, they're dead. And then I realize, oh yeah, I think I knew that. I think I already mourned them like 10 years ago when they died. Anyway, it's a cycle I go through. John Hurt, American actor and producer. He died in 2017, born on this day in 1946. What is John Hurt known for? Everything. John Hurt, 80s, 90s. He's a that guy actor. You're like, oh, that guy. I think that probably most people saw him because he did a whole bunch of movies. But like his biggest movie were the Home Alone movies. He was Kevin McAllister's dad. He was the dad in the Home Alone movies. But, again, I'm very Sopranos oriented. He was Vin Makazian, the crooked detective that Tony was paying off to get information from on The Sopranos. Anyway, John Hurt, born on this day in 1946, died in 2017. He was also in Prison Break. He played the warden in Prison Break, and he was in a bunch of stuff. Born on this day in 1950. Whoa, we got a couple of umbilical cousins here. Wow. A couple of umbilical cousins. Umbilical cousins are people born on the exact same day, on the exact same year. Two athletes here we got to talk about. Born on this day in 1950. Two athletes who are absolutely dominant in the era that they played, who have been essentially forgotten. And we're not talking about guys that played all that long ago because the birthdays are in 1950. Franco Harris, American football player, played for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Franco-American. He was one of the great running backs of that era. He ran out of bounds a lot, though. Franco didn't stay in there and take the hits. He was criticized a lot. People think that Franco Harris could have had way more rushing yards than he had. And as it was, when he retired, he was threatening for the all-time leading rushing stats. I believe at the time it was like Jim Brown, Walter Payton, and Franco Harris was right there. If Franco Harris hadn't run out of bounds, he might have been the NFL's all-time leading rusher. He ran out of bounds a lot to avoid hits. But then again, maybe because of avoiding those hits, this allowed him to play longer because he was, less injured. I don't know. His umbilical cousin, another guy, absolutely dominant in his era of play, who was almost completely forgotten by Major League Baseball, and that's J.R. Richard. J.R. Richard, born on this day, umbilical cousins with Franco Harris. J.R. Richard was one of the most dominant pitchers in baseball until he suffered a stroke before a game. He was playing catch before, he played for the Astros. He was a pitcher. He was playing catch before the game, just, a little bit of warm up, and he suffered a stroke, and he came back from the stroke, and he tried to pitch after the stroke, but the stroke had done some damage to his depth perception, and his reaction time was down, and it just became dangerous because he felt he didn't have the agility any longer to get out of the way if a ball was hit right back at him. So there you have it. Happy birthday to Franco Harris and J.R. Richard. Both are dead now. Franco just died recently, like a few months ago. He died in 2021, and J.R. Richard died in Franco died in 2022, just a couple of months ago, and J.R. Richard died in 2021. Born on this day in 1952, teammate of Franco Harris, one of the greats of all time, good old number 88. Oh, I used to watch him streaking down the sideline for the Pittsburgh Steelers. You had John Stallworth on one side and Lynn Swann on the other. Happy birthday to you, Lynn Swann, American football player, NFL Football Hall of Famer, one of the greatest receivers of the 1970s, no questions about that. Lynn Swann, born on this day in 1952. How about another football player? Here's one for you. Minnesota Vikings quarterback, born on this day in 1955, Tommy Kramer. Tommy Kramer, ladies and gentlemen. Tommy Kramer's nickname was Two-Finger Tommy. Two-Finger Tommy. Now, those of you who get the reference, you understand why that's not a great nickname for the quarterback of your football team. Two-Finger Tommy, he liked 2 fingers of bourbon in his glass. That's what he liked. Tommy Kramer could have been a great quarterback, but unfortunately, he enjoyed the high life, is what the story goes. And Two-Finger Tommy, the legend of Two-Finger Tommy lives on. Happy birthday to you, Tommy Kramer, American football player, quarterback, Minnesota Vikings. He bounced around a little bit, but I remember his best years were with the Vikings. Born on this day in 1956, Bryan Cranston, American actor, director, and producer. Oh, is he beloved? I don't know if he's so beloved. He's gotten a little bit mouthy lately. He's got political opinions. I don't know if he's as beloved as maybe he used to be. I don't know. Anyway, Bryan Cranston, well, obviously Walter White from Breaking Bad, but so much more. I mean, his stuff on Seinfeld was so great. The dentist. he was great. He had a couple of different appearances on Seinfeld as their friend, the dentist. Malcolm in the Middle. Every movie does. Bryan Cranston's cool. In my book, I like Cranston. I think he's cool. Born on this day in 1962. Taylor Dayne, American singer, songwriter, actress. Tell it to my heart. Tell it and the only one. I don't know what the lyrics are to that song, but I know that was Taylor Dayne's song. Is it really love or just a game? I don't know. Taylor Dayne. Where'd she come from? There was like a day in like 1987 where I woke up and, went to school and did everything, and there was no such thing as a Taylor Dayne. And then I woke up the next day and Taylor Dayne was a thing. Where did she come from? And where did she go? She was like really big for like 6 months. And then we never heard from Taylor Dayne again. I would take that though. I would take like 6 months of like because you got to, if you're smart, and especially if you're only get those 6 months. Yeah, that's the trick, to know that you're only going to get 6 months. Because if you only get 6 months, you might not truly appreciate your time in the spotlight because you think it's going to go on forever, and then one day it's over. But if you know going in that you only have 6 months, like Taylor Dayne, man, I'd be doing mall openings and car dealers. I'd be working every day, cashing them checks every day, because they ain't gonna keep going. Born on this day in 1964, Bret Easton Ellis, American author and screenwriter. He's kind of the Gen X wordsmith, Bret Easton Ellis. Look, his books get turned into great movies. I'll say that. Most notably, Less Than Zero, which is so good. American Psycho, which is so good. Bret Easton Ellis, born on this day. He's got a bunch of other stuff. It's like Bret Easton Ellis and Matthew Copeland. Those are like the two Gen X writers. Matthew Copeland wrote Gen X. He coined the phrase Gen X. He wrote the book Gen X, and then he wrote Shampoo Planet. But I really think that now, as history, I think that the guy who really captured Gen X better was Bret Easton Ellis. The whole Less Than Zero vibe and energy and American Psycho. Anyway, happy birthday to you, Bret Easton Ellis, born on this day in 1964. Born on this day in 1964, umbilical cousins with Bret Easton Ellis. How about Wanda Sykes, American comedian, actress, and screenwriter? I love Wanda Sykes. Born on this day in 1971, Peter Sarsgaard. He's got a pirate name. He's got a name that you have to pronounce like a pirate. His name is Peter Sarsgaard. Born on this day in 1974, Jenna Fischer, American actress. Jenna Fischer is beloved by, I would say, 90% of the men in America. 90% of the men in America see a Jenna Fischer and they're like, oh, isn't she adorable, Jenna? You just Pam Beesly from The Office. Like 90%, I would say 9 out of 10 men. They're like, Pam Beesly from The Office. Yeah, I could get with her. I could get with her. Do you know why? Do you want to know what the appeal of it? I'm not saying Jenna Fischer. Jenna Fischer is a Hollywood actress. Okay. She's the real Jenna Fischer is a whole different thing than the character of Pam Beesly, right? Pam Beesly, the small town girl from Scranton, Pennsylvania, who, works as her dream is to be an artist, but she's working as a receptionist in this horrible paper company, right? That's who here's who she represents. Pam Beesly represents like the minimum, I don't even want to say minimum because she's great. She's like the girl that 9 out of 10 American guys would settle for, right? Like all guys like have their dreams, like I'm gonna marry Kim Kardashian. You know what I mean? Like that's like these crazy dreams and they never pan out. But I think like every guy in America looked at Pam Beesly and went, all right, if shit didn't work out, I could, live in a ranch house with her and pump out 5 kids. I think that's the appeal of Pam Beesly. That she was like, first of all, Jenna Fischer's gorgeous. We're talking about the actress, right? Okay, so now let's talk about the actress. The actress Jenna Fischer is beautiful. She's beautiful, and she's not Pam Beesly. Pam Beesly was beautiful, but Pam Beesly was beautiful in that, man, did you see that hot girl who works at the Paducah Walmart? She's like that kind of, you know what I mean? Like small town, like a Cleveland 10, as they say, or I'm sorry, like a Toledo 10. Like a girl who's a 10 in Toledo is, maybe a 6 in Dallas, something like that. Anyway, happy birthday to Jenna Fischer. We love Jenna Fischer. Happy birthday, born on this day in 1980 to Laura. We love Jenna Fischer, even though we just talked about her. But we're talking about her character. We're talking about the character of Pam Beesly and how she played her and what I think she represented to a lot of guys. Like the bare minimum, like, okay, if none of my dreams come true, I could totally be happy married to a Pam Beesly. Right? I think that's what she represents. Laura Prepon, born on this day in 1980. What does Laura Prepon represent? I don't know. I don't know what she represents. She's hot. She's always been hot. Like she was hot in that 70s show. She's not the same thing as Jenna Fischer. Laura Prepon, born on this day in 1980. How about some people who died? Let's go through some people who have passed away on this day. Robert Townsend. He died on this day in 1838. You know who Robert Townsend is? I talked the other day. A lot of times these names come up and they get like credited as being founding fathers. And I was like, I don't know who this person is. I've never heard of this person before. So Robert Townsend was incredibly important and incredibly cool and should be way more famous and way more historically heralded and recognized than he is. But unfortunately, his role was to not be known. Robert Townsend was an American spy during the Revolutionary War. In fact, he was one of Washington's most trusted spies. George Washington had a ring of intelligence gatherers, spies, who were still in New York City. New York City was occupied by the British, and George Washington and his troops were outside New York. And it was called the Culper Spy Ring. And it was run by, what was his name? Talmadge? Abraham Talmadge. Anyway, we're talking about Robert Townsend. Robert Townsend was a guy who ran an inn in New York City that was frequented by British officers. And Robert Townsend was able to gather information as a part of the Culper Spy Ring from all of these officers simply by waiting on them, simply by pouring them their drinks and listening to their conversations and all of this kind of stuff. Robert Townsend, American spy, born on this day in 1838. Hero, survived the whole thing. He was known clandestinely as Samuel Culper Jr. That was his name. That's what George Washington knew him as, Samuel Culper Jr. But even after the war, he wanted nobody to know. Robert Townsend just disappeared. He bought a little pig farm in Long Island, raised some kids. George Washington never knew his real name. Nobody ever knew until years later when, the biography started coming out. But there you go. That's a dude you should know. The Revolutionary War was won by a lot of soldiers and a lot of great strategy, but it was truly the edge was given to Washington by the Culper Spy Ring, who did some absolutely amazing stuff and just pissed the British off to no end with their espionage and the way that they were able to foil plans and all these kinds of things. Robert Townsend, dead on this day in 1838, a true American hero. Dead on this day in 1988, Divine, not an American hero. Divine is just a Divine. Whenever I think of Divine was a trans personality in movies and TV in the 1970s and 80s. Divine worked almost exclusively with John Waters, who made weird films for even weirder people. Sorry. Look, if you're a John Waters fan, good for you. That's fine. I begrudge no man what they use to, entertain themselves. Unless, of course, it's like terrible shit. But you know what I mean? I don't care. If you like John Waters, that's fine. I've tried, I grew up in the 80s. I was trying to be cool. I tried to watch a John Waters movie and I was like, yeah, this is so bizarre. It's kind of funny that it's so bizarre. But after that, it's just really bad filmmaking. It's just really stupid, bad movies. Divine died. Divine was a big, who played Divine? Who imitated Divine? John Candy. Go to YouTube and just put in John Candy as Divine. And you'll basically get Divine's whole vibe. Whenever I think of Divine, like right now, I'm conjuring up images of Divine, and they're images of John Candy impersonating Divine. Divine died on this day in 1988. Dead on this day in 1999. The great Stanley Kubrick, ladies and gentlemen. The great Stanley Kubrick. According to yours truly, he is the greatest film director of all time in the history of movie making. Stanley Kubrick. He is my personal favorite film director. I love everything. Not true. I don't love everything he does. I don't. Shockingly, I do not like what the film that he is most famous for, which is so weird. I can't get through 2001: A Space Odyssey. I can't get through it. I can't get through 2001: A Space. I've tried many times. I love Kubrick. I keep going back to it thinking, I'm missing something. Maybe if I watch it this time, it'll click. It never clicks for me. I have no idea what is happening in 2001: A Space Odyssey. But doesn't matter. I do follow along with a lot of the other stuff that he did. So we're going to do a Stanley Kubrick draft. That's right. We're going to draft his greatest works on this, the day of his passing. Stanley Kubrick died on this day in 1999, and we're opening up the Stanley Kubrick draft with the first pick, the first selection off the board, my favorite movie of all time. Notice I say, in my later years, I used to go, the greatest movie of all time. I mean, I don't need to say greatest. You may not be the greatest to you. You don't have, we are all affected differently by works of art. Dr. Strangelove is an absolute work of cinematic art. I love that film, and it goes off the board number one. Dr. Strangelove off the board number one in the Stanley Kubrick draft. Number two in the Stanley Kubrick draft, 1962's Lolita. Lolita. Have you guys ever seen Lolita? Kubrick's adaptation of the Nabokov book about the young girl, the 15, 16-year-old girl who seduces the older gentleman who is boarding at her mother's house. Is Lolita a good movie? James Mason, Shelley Winters, Sue Lyon as Lolita. But the entire reason for watching the film Lolita is because of the name I'm going to say next, Peter Sellers. I think it's Peter Sellers' best film. I think Peter Sellers in Lolita, I think it's his best film. I think he's funniest. I think he's the most interesting. I think it's his best acting job. Off the board, number two in the Stanley Kubrick draft, Lolita. Number three off the board in the Stanley Kubrick draft, The Shining. That's right, The Shining. In my estimation, The Shining is the best horror film ever made. I love The Shining. We're talking about Nicholson, talking about Shelley Duvall. We're talking about Scatman Crothers. We're talking about real Kubrick. Red Rum. Shining. The Shining comes off the board at number three in the Stanley Kubrick draft. Coming off the board at number four in the Stanley Kubrick draft, what I think is the best Vietnam film ever made, Full Metal Jacket. That's right. Full Metal Jacket with Pyle, Arlie Ermy, Matthew Modine. Full Metal Jacket comes off the board, number 5. So now we're in a spot here because we only do a 5-round draft. We're on number 5. We've only got one more movie to pick from, and holy shit, does Kubrick still have award-winning, beloved films. Now, I've already told you that I don't get 2001: A Space Odyssey. So I ain't drafting 2001: A Space Odyssey. So we can get that out of our... So what do I go with at number 5? I mean, there's a lot of shit I could go with, right? Ultimately, I went with A Clockwork Orange. That's right, A Clockwork Orange. Oh my God. I can't even explain that movie. I've seen that movie probably a dozen times. And not unlike 2001, there are moments in A Clockwork Orange where I'm just like, what the fuck is going on here? But I don't know. It works for me. A Clockwork Orange works for me where 2001: A Space Odyssey doesn't. So there you go. There's your top 5 picks in the Stanley Kubrick draft. Number 1 off the board, Strangelove, followed by Lolita, followed by The Shining, followed by Full Metal Jacket, followed by A Clockwork Orange. But oh my goodness, you better be damn straight that we're going to invite some undrafted rookies into the free agency camp. Yes, we are. Kubrick camp invites coming for. Yeah, I left it off. I know people are like, how did you not draft Spartacus? Spartacus is great, but Kubrick's got a lot of great movies. Spartacus comes off the board. Kirk Douglas. I'm Spartacus. Paths of Glory, great war film. Kubrick was great with war films, great with reality, great with like just bringing you right into the mayhem. Paths of Glory. 3, The Killing. The Killing is a lesser known Stanley Kubrick. It's very noir, very dark, very good. The Killing. Barry Lyndon comes off the board. Barry Lyndon gets a camp invite. And yeah, okay, fine. 2001: A Space Odyssey gets a camp invite. I'm skeptical, right? But a lot of other scouts are going, no, man, 2001: A Space Odyssey. Have you seen their 40 time? So we're going to invite 2001 into camp. I'm going to give him one more chance to impress me. But, I don't know. Eyes Wide Shut also gets an invite. Now, Eyes Wide Shut. What are you saying? Much maligned, Eyes Wide Shut. Yeah, Eyes Wide Shut is much maligned. I've seen Eyes Wide Shut 3 times. And I'd be lying if I told you that it was because I enjoyed it all 3 times. I watched Eyes Wide Shut 3 times over the past 20 years or so, simply because I like Kubrick so much that I give him the benefit of the doubt. I didn't like Eyes Wide Shut when I saw it in the theaters. In fact, I hated it. I was bored. I thought it was stupid. Then I watched it again, and I was like, okay, so I kind of got it a little more. Then a couple years later, I watched it again. Actually, the 3rd time I watched it, I like caught it in the middle. Like, I started watching it. It was just in the middle. And I actually kind of understood it. So Eyes Wide Shut, I don't care how maligned it is, Eyes Wide Shut gets an invitation. There you have it. And that's going to conclude our birthdays and deaths and historic events for today, March the 7th. Jeff Ballard claims that Stanley Kubrick is the great mind behind the faking of the moon landing. Well, I'm telling you, if anybody could fake the moon landing, it would have been the cinematic eye of Stanley Kubrick. John Waters. Al says John Waters was on an episode of The Blacklist recently. Yeah. You know what? I don't know what the Blacklist is, but what I think a Blacklist is that like a list of people who are not allowed to work because of, whatever their choice is or, skin color, that kind of thing. That's what I imagine a Blacklist is. John Waters was just weird for weird's sake. It's like, you can't say that John Waters was making otherwise commercially mainstream films and he was just, not allowed to participate in mainstream Hollywood filmmaking because he was gay and weird and interesting and curious. I don't think so. If he was making like there's plenty of people who lived a private life very similar to John Waters who were extremely successful in Hollywood in the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. So I don't know. I think John Waters just made weird films. I think he just made weird films and then nobody saw them because they were weird films. And certain people said, nobody saw him because he's weird. No, yeah, kind of. He made weird films. That's what happens. El Gamboa says it's a list of the top criminals around the world. Why would John Waters be on a list of the top criminals around the world? That's interesting. Now I need to know. Adam Reyna says the best part of Eyes Wide Shut is the joke it gives in that Party Down episode. Okay. All right. I've just recently rediscovered Party Down. I'm re-binging Party Down. I'm on season 2 now, I think. Let's see. What else do we have here? I'm just trying to. I want to spend a little bit more time talking to you folks in the chat room, because at the end of the show, I always look at the chat room and I try to respond to things, and I can't, because I can't respond once the show is over. Jen Hernandez says she saw Taylor Dane at the Grape Fest in Grapevine a few months back. All right. Jen says, I had no idea that she would be there until I saw all these kids dressed up in 80s attire waiting to get in. Kids dressing in? Okay. All right. That's good for her. Good for Taylor Dane and her Tell It to My Heart. I mean, that's all she had, though, right? She just had the one song. Does Taylor Dane have more songs than Tell It to My Heart? I don't know. Let's ask Spotify. Let's see. You know what? Never mind. This is how we get distracted. All right, let's move on. Let's get into the topics that are trending today. I'm not in love with a whole bunch of these topics. So, Blacklist, Leslie says Blacklist is a show featuring James Spader. Oh, yeah, I know that show, The Blacklist. Okay. Yeah, I know that show. So John Waters was acting in the television show, The Blacklist. Okay, I got you. Yeah, you know what? I don't need to go down a John Waters hole. Like I said, he's fine. Let him do his thing. I don't have to, spend my money on it. You ever seen that one? He did one. He had like one fairly mainstream Hollywood film, Crybaby. Remember that with Johnny Depp? Johnny Depp and Ricky Lake. Who else was in that? I don't know. Just very weird. All right, let's get into the topics that are trending. The weird drama kids in high school were always way into like John Waters. Like in high school in like the 80s, if you smoked clove cigarettes, remember those gross clove cigarettes that weirdo artsy people started smoking in the 80s? If you smoked weird clove cigarettes and were really into the Smiths and the Cure, you probably liked, and we're in drama class, you probably like John Waters films. Jerome Powell is trending. Jerome Powell, he's the big money guy here in this country. He's the Fed guy. Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell said, I'm just going to take a break. I'm going to take a sip. I'm going to calm the fuck down because I can't even read my notes here. Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell says that recent data suggests the ultimate level of interest rates is likely to be higher than previously anticipated. Powell is currently speaking to the United States Senate, their panel on the state of the U.S. economy. All right, so Powell basically, he got down today, he sat in front of the Senate, and he said, you think things are bad now? So there we go. So how are the markets reacting? Do we have like crazy, let's see, how are they? Let's see, hold on. Dow Jones.
According to Wikipedia, the Dow Jones Industrial Average,
Yikes.
Dow Jones, or simply the
Yikes.
Dow, is a stock market index of 30 prominent
It's not
companies
good.
listed on stock exchanges in the United States.
All right, so Powell goes in front of the Fed, or he goes, Powell is the Fed. He goes in front of the Senate Committee on Economics, and he basically says things gonna get real bad, and the stock market is tanking. It's down 541 points right now. It's still, look, cumulatively, it's still around 32,000. That's really good. That is really good. I mean, we are killing it money-wise. We're at 32,000, but we are down today, 541. And I say we're down 32,000, and I always go back to 2008, 2009, when we were in the middle of the crash. And I remember an economist was being interviewed, and this economist was asked, again, this is 2010. This economist was asked, when will you feel comfortable that the U.S. economy is in a rebound stage? And he said, or is rebounding. And he basically said that once we see the Dow cumulatively over 12, I'll feel like we're coming back. What were we at? Like 8? We're at 32 now. We're at 32,000 now. So you just think about how bad it was back then. Economists were like, please get us to 12. So we're at 32. So even though it's down today, based on what Powell said to the Senate, it'll be fine. The look, if you're worried about, I don't worry about the stock market because I don't have enough money to be in the stock market, but that's the indicator that they say that speaks a larger story about the overall economic picture of the United States. So we're fine. We're at 32. We're fine. Yes, we're down 541 points today, but that's okay because we'll be up 1,000 points tomorrow, right? I mean, that's just how it goes. So that's why Powell is trending today. China is trending today because this is interesting about what China is saying. We don't hear much about what China says to its people about what's happening in the world. We know what we hear. You hear from Tucker Carlson every night about China, or you hear from, whoever. I don't know who it is you're listening to. I was going to say, don't really hear a lot of China stuff coming out of like CNN. CNN seems to be more focused on politics, divisive politics, and divisive social issues. Whereas Fox News seems to always be looking for our next enemy. So, you're probably hearing a lot about, China and how we need to be worried about China and the Third World War and China and Russia and China and Iran and China and China and China. But what we don't hear is we don't hear a lot about what the Chinese politicians or ruling class are saying to their people about us. Well, we are now, and it ain't good. Chinese ministers are warning the Chinese public that the United States is about to go to war with them. So the Chinese people are being told that we, the United States, are getting ready to invade China. That ain't good. That ain't good that they're being told that, because I don't think that's true. Do you think that's true? I don't think that's true. But that's the kind of shit that's being said now in China to the people. Chinese Foreign Minister Qin Gang warned Tuesday in Beijing that Beijing and Washington are headed for conflict and confrontation if the U.S. doesn't change course, striking a combative tone at a moment when relations between the rivals are at a historical low. In his first news conference since taking office last year, Quinn's harsh language appeared to defy predictions that China might abandon its aggressive wolf warrior diplomacy in favor of more moderate rhetoric as the two countries face off over trade and technology. Also Taiwan, human rights, and the Russian invasion of Japan. Okay, so it's one thing when on the world stage, when the Chinese government is talking to the rest of the world, right? That's one thing. And then it's another thing when, you come to America and you see American news media talking to the American populace. The American news media is ginning up the pop. But it's interesting. We don't often see Chinese people in how they speak to the Chinese. Do we even call it an electorate? I don't know do they vote? I mean, I know they vote, but is it real voting? You know what I mean? So that's interesting. So China, the bureaucracy of China is sort of saber rattling with the people of China to make them think that maybe we're being a little bit more aggressive than we actually are. I mean, do we even have any ships in that region in striking distance? I don't know. Mexico is trending today. Why? Because those 4 missing people who I have questions about. I just, I know 4 people from North Carolina go into Mexico apparently they were looking for medications. They were going there to buy medications. And one of these people were there for a tummy tuck surgery. So is this the thing? Do normal people just load up the car in North Carolina and drive to Mexico, entering Mexico through Matamoros, which is like serial killer land? Like Matamoros is like one of the scariest places on earth. Do you remember like back in the 80s or whatever, they found all of those dead bodies? There was like a weird satanic cult that was operating down there. Anyway, these 4 people, They're abducted off the streets in Matamoros out of their white minivan with the North Carolina plates, and they go missing. Well, we do have. Well, it's over. It's basically over. 2 of them are dead. Deadly abduction. 2 Matamoros kidnapping victims have been killed. 1 is injured, and 1 was found alive after traveling to Mexico for medical procedures. 2 of the 4 American citizens kidnapped in Mexico over the weekend are dead. 1 of the victims was found alive, while the 4th is injured in unknown condition. Okay. Come on, pictures and all this kind of stuff. Police confirmed the grim news in a call to Mexican President Andres Manuel Lopez Obrador. Of the 4, 2 of them are dead. 1 person is wounded and the other is alive. And right now, the ambulances, and the rest of the security personnel are going for them to give the corresponding support. Police did not identify which of the 2 victims died in the brutal attack. A suspect, who is yet to be named, was arrested in connection with the deadly kidnappings. Mexico's Secretary for Security and Citizen Protection, Rosa Isela Rodriguez Vasquez, said. Okay. All right. Well, okay. So here's what we know. So the 4 people that were in the van that traveled from North Carolina to Mexico, entering through Matamoros, 2 of them are dead. 1 of them is injured, and 1 of them seems to be okay. In the early stages of the story, it was being presented to us like, oh, happy-go-lucky, all-American. Look, they're just out for a nice little vacation, and they're going to Mexico, and this is what happens when you go to Mexico. You know, it was like that. And then I started to look at it. I'm like, okay, they're basically doctor shopping. They're going to Mexico to buy pills and medications, and you can say it's for blood pressure, it's for this, or you can just say it's drugs. They might just be loading up on drugs. I don't know. It just seems strange. Like, the other idea was Mexico is not a safe place for your vacation destination. Who the hell vacations in Matamoros? Okay, this is not a real thing. This is not a real thing. If you have tickets to Cancun and you're leaving, next weekend, you're fine. If you're going to Playa, you're fine. This is Matamoros, Mexico. I would never go to Matamoros, Mexico. I am never entering Mexico through one of these Texas, Mexico land, but the towns on either side. I mean, I guess El Paso's okay, but the towns on the other side are just like, ugh. They're just like the worst places on earth. Anyway, very sad ending to this story. 2 of them, we still don't know why. We still don't know what was going on. Was it a drug deal? Were they literally just randomly taken off the street because they were in a car with North Carolina plates? And obviously they're, strangers. Joe Rogan is trending. Joe Rogan is trending because this is kind of a strange story that I didn't think I would wake up and read this morning. So Joe Rogan doesn't get along with his dad. Joe Rogan's dad. I mean, there are some unavoidable truths. Like Joe Rogan's mother and father got divorced when Joe Rogan was 7 years old, and his dad left. His dad left. He was 7 years old. Never saw him again. Never even spoke to him. His dad went away and had another family, and so they're estranged. They haven't had a relationship. But Joe Rogan's dad is now taking to TikTok with some other members of Joe Rogan's family who are basically talking shit on him now. It says here, it looks like we got some family drama unfolding out in New Jersey as Joe Rogan's family has taken to TikTok to try and wipe all the respect off his name. I don't know the full story here, but I do know Joe and his dad haven't been in contact since the 70s. Here you go. So here's the video. I'll just show you the video of Joe Rogan's dad talking shit on Joe Rogan. We'll try and figure out what this is all about. All righty, we got that there. All right. All right, once again. Yeah. Oh, shit. It's not sharing. I don't understand why this happens, but okay. All right. Here we go. Let's see if we can share this.
Lied about.
All right, we'll make it big. We'll make it big, see if that'll work. Does that work better? Okay, there you go. This is Joe Rogan's dad. So let's hear what Joe Rogan's dad is now saying about him. He's 81 years old.
Lied about me. Your father. If you lied about your father, what do you give up the world? I'm tired of it, Joe. I just had enough. If you can't talk to me face to face, you're a punk ass. That's all you are. You got all the money, everything, but you know what you don't have? You don't have no heart, and I'm going to tell you something else you don't have. You ain't got two balls. You don't want to talk to your father because you couldn't handle me. 81 years old. You couldn't handle this guy right here. And when you said I beat up kids, I beat up other women, Joe Harrison was, when you farted in your house, they knew next door. How could I get away with that?
My real father was crazy. He was like a psychotic person. He beat the fuck out of my mother.
Like he would be the type of...
You owe me a big apology.
Joe, you were taken away at a very young age, okay? Unfortunately, you did not get to grow up with the man that we were fortunate enough to grow up with, that my kids are fortunate enough to grow up with.
Smacks women, beats the shit out of kids.
When he went to college for acting, he had to take up drama.
Beats the shit out of them. So I went from living around these Italian, New Jersey psychopaths.
You said the Italians in North Jersey were psychotic? A lot of the Italians. Joe, I'm 81 years old. I never met a psychotic Italian.
These crazy ass Italian psychopath Italians over here, you know what? We know one thing for sure. We know family. We not caught up in the bullshit over there in Hollywood and all that, bro. We down to real roots, okay? And this man is the real root, brother. You always revert back to your roots, Joe. What you doing, man? Sit on the other side of the table, my man. No cameras, no nothing, bro. And not me. Don't worry, I won't be here.
I'm sorry that all this happened to you. From the bottom of my heart, I am sorry. Because you will never know what you have missed out on in life. I love when I see the comments. They just want the money. They want the money bag. I have a box, Pandora's box. And if I open it, Joe, things would get really ugly. But see, we don't roll that way. Us psychopaths from New Jersey, we don't roll that way.
Italian psycho.
Just veiled threats. They don't roll that way. They're not going to open Pandora's box, but they got Pandora's box if old Joe wants to push back. Let me tell you something about that video. Here's what I think. I think that Joe Rogan was raised by a pack of wolves, and I think that he got out of there, and I think that he got his own family, and I think that he's made his own way in the world. I think he's got a wife that he loves and children that he adores, and I don't think he needs any of this garbage from these dirtbags back in New Jersey. The way that father was speaking, they haven't spoken in years, okay? So, okay, Joe Rogan a couple of years ago, and by the way, I say a couple of years, I'm being generous. That clip that they showed of Joe Rogan talking about his father looks to be 20 years old. Joe Rogan hasn't looked that way in 20 years. He hasn't done his show in that way in 20 years. So give me a break with that, okay? It's not like Joe Rogan is going on his show every day and hammering about his father. In fact, I've never heard him speak of his father before. You yourselves had to go back 20 years to find a clip where he talked about how his dad beat up his mom and beat up whatever. If it's true, I don't know if it's true or not. You're telling me it's true. I believe you. Now, the dad, after, again, pointing out that they had to go back 20 years to find the last time Joe talked about his dad. Now the dad is like calling him a punk ass and saying, you know, like basically threatening him. Like the dad came off like a complete a-hole. I think that video from the dad, and I don't know if that was a cousin or like a stepsister or a stepbrother. I don't even know who those people were, but I think those people obviously, Joe Rogan got very famous. They probably, as he was becoming very famous, they probably in some way reached out to him and tried to get in on it. You know, hey, we're the family. This could be good. I need a loan to start that new business. Maybe old cousin Joe, right? Something like that. And maybe they were rebuffed for, you know, a number of years. Joe wants nothing to do with these people. So now this seems like a last-ditch effort on the part of the family to, fine, Fine, we'll make it public then. You're going to hang out with, like they're demanding, but they just want to hang out with a celebrity cousin. I think that's pretty much what's going on here. Because if he wasn't Joe Rogan, the celebrity, and he was Joe Rogan, the guy who changed tires in Bakersfield, I don't think that they'd be dropping TikToks demanding that he come and sit across the table from them. Family is messed up, man. I'm telling you, these people seem like dirtbags. And I don't know what kind of human being Joe Rogan is either. I have some questions about that. But I can tell that, these people, this is not the way to handle it. If I had been estranged from my son for this many years, I don't go on TikTok. I call him personally. I write him notes. Maybe I even just show up where he is and I try and force the issue. But how do you force the issue in a situation like that? You're like, I'm here, motherfucker. Let's hug. No, you got to go in hat in hand. You got to accept everything that he's going to tell you. Because he was a little boy. He was a 7-year-old when you left. He watched you, according to him, beat up his mom, beat up him, beat up his brother. He watched a lot of bad stuff as a very little kid. He doesn't have any love for you. So if you want to come back and have some kind of relationship and you got to just roll them dice on the idea that maybe Joe feels the same way, that life is short and you should have some relationship with these people that you're genetically tethered to, fine. But he don't owe you nothing. He got out, he went away, he did his own thing. You left him at 7 years old. Jeez Louise. Joe Mixon is trending. Cincinnati Bengals running back Joe Mixon is trending today. Why is Joe Mixon trending? Because there was a police. They showed up at his house last night for a call of shots fired. Shots fired at Joe Mixon's Cincinnati residence. Turned out that a kid shot himself. Non-life-threatening injury, but there was a kid in the house. We don't have any more details. Don't know if it was Joe Mixon's kid. Don't know if it was like a girlfriend's kid or a nephew or whatever. But apparently a child has been shot, and it was at the home of, or a home. Here's how they're saying it. A home listed as being owned by a trust operated by one of Joe Mixon's companies. So I don't know what that means. Is that the house he lives in? That sounds like a whole bunch of tax nonsense that rich guys get into. So I don't know. Investigators with the Hamilton County Sheriff's Office are investigating an incident after reports of shots being fired around a home associated with Cincinnati Bengals running back Joe Mixon. We do know now that a child was shot. Aaron Rodgers is trending. This is a dangerous one because anything can happen here. I mean, I've been on the air now for an hour, so this could have changed. Is Aaron Rodgers a Jet yet, or is that deal over with? Because reports are coming fast and furious today that Aaron Rodgers is going to sign with the New York Jets, and I cannot wait for this to happen. Couple of reasons. One, I am a Chicago Bear guy, and I need to get Aaron Rodgers out of Green Bay. I just need him gone. I need the Jordan Love era of Green Bay football to begin. I need Aaron Rodgers gone. It has been like 25 years, you guys. You don't get it. As a Bears fan, it has been 25 years of Brett Favre crushing my soul into Aaron Rodgers breaking my heart. It is. I need Aaron Rodgers gone. I need Aaron Rodgers gone. And if possible, the dream scenario would be that Aaron Rodgers gets sent to New York. And I'm going to tell you why. Because Aaron Rodgers is a bit of a punk. And Aaron Rodgers, no matter how, I've been at Super Bowls, Aaron Rodgers, you have spent your entire career in Green Bay, Wisconsin. You've spent your entire career fielding questions from guys who run bait shops 6 months of the year. Of course, Aaron, you've gone toe-to-toe with the vaunted Green Bay and Door County media. You have. My point is this. No Green Bay Packer has ever been backed into a corner by a Green Bay journalist. It doesn't happen up there. The Green Bay Packers, that is, if you're a sensitive guy, if you're a sensitive athlete who doesn't like being criticized by media, go to Green Bay because Green Bay is going to take care of you. The New York Jets, that ain't going to happen, Aaron. Oh, he is going to be so entertaining in New York. They are going to push him around. They're going to be mean to him. The first interception he throws, they're going to openly ask him why he doesn't retire. They're going to drive him nuts. And Aaron Rodgers, I can tell you, and much of this might be because he spent 10 years baking in that Green Bay oven, where now he thinks that this is how the media is going to treat him. He's going to be in a New York Jets locker room, and he's going to be facing the New York sports media. And Aaron Rodgers is not going to keep his cool. Aaron Rodgers is going to do something. So that's why I want that to happen. And that's why Aaron Rodgers is trending. Twofold. I want him out of the division, and I would love to see him get pummeled at the end of his career as the skills start to depreciate. I would love to see him do that in front of the New York media. It's just a little something that I want. Just a little something from me. Tom Brady is also trending. Yeah, we're going through this again because Tom Brady is apparently going to be a Dolphin. Yeah! Nah, well, not apparently. But that story is going around. That Tom Brady is really not retired again and he's going to play for the Dolphins because that's what he wanted to do the whole time. Play for the Dolphins. Fuck. Tom Brady, seriously. I mean, I don't care. But geez. Let's see. What else do we have here? Sex tape. Who doesn't love a good sex tape? I'm a guy of my generation who can honestly say that there is no sex tape of me out there. I don't think so. Can't imagine anybody ever had sex with secretly recording sex with me. I don't think that's a thing. But a lot of people out there have sex tapes. It's crazy. Crazy. People started doing it for fun. Let's make a sex tape. And then, what's going on here? Stupid sound. Stupid commercial sound. Hold on, sorry. All right. So why is sex tape trending? Because Paris Hilton is talking about her famous sex tape, and she's basically like sex tape ground zero. Like it was Paris Hilton and her sex tape back in what? Like 2002 or something like that. I don't know. Rick Solomon. Remember she was like 18 and she was dating like some dude in his 30s and he was like, let's make a sex tape. And she wasn't even like Paris Hilton yet. Like she made the sex tape in 1999 before she was famous. And then like a couple of years later, she became Paris Hilton, the socialite, making the scene and walking the red carpets. And she became famous. And the ex-boyfriend, Rick Solomon, then released the sex tape. And it became a thing. It was like, I don't know what the thinking was. Was it like before the Paris Hilton sex tape that if you release a sex tape and there's a woman on it and she's doing the sex, she'll never work again and her career will be over? That's not what happened. It turned out to be the greatest thing that ever happened to Paris Hilton. It made Paris Hilton a megastar. Ground zero. The first sex tape. Well, I guess maybe Pam and Tommy Lee were like the first sex tape, right? And then I guess there were like a couple of other ones, like, but you know what I mean? That started the trend of like everybody openly making a sex tape. Like, let's make a sex tape. That whole started after the Paris Hilton thing. Paris Hilton is sharing private details regarding her 2004 leaked sex tape in her book, Paris, the Memoir. The pop culture icon. That's what they're calling her. They're calling Paris Hilton a pop culture icon. God damn it, she is. Pop culture. She is a pop culture icon of the early 2000s. She absolutely is. In her memoir, the pop culture icon shared that she was allegedly pressured to record the tape back in 1999, despite persistently making excuses as he kept pushing her to make the tape. In an excerpt of her memoir, which was published in the Times on Saturday, Hilton shared that she was only 18 years old when she first met the man, who she does not name and refers to by his nickname, Scum. That man is Rick Solomon. He told me if I wouldn't do it, make the sex tape, he could easily find someone who would. And that was the worst thing that I could think of, to be dumped by this grown man because I was some stupid kid who didn't know how to play grown-up games, Hilton alleged of Solomon. Let's see here. The hotel heiress penned that she was tipsy and tired and was told that the intimate video would be just for us. Hilton added that even prior to her relationship with Solomon, she hated the idea of sex. I avoided sex until it was absolutely unavoidable, she wrote. Yeah, she looks like that. I've always said that about Paris Hilton. Paris Hilton is absolutely beautiful. Like, there's no denying it. You look at Paris Hilton in 2004, 2003, you're like, oh my God, she is like freaking beautiful. But Paris Hilton was never sexy. Paris Hilton didn't have, you know who was sexy? You know who had sex appeal? Kim Kardashian. Kim Kardashian looks like she has the sex. Kim Kardashian looks like she will put you through a workout. Not Paris Hilton. Paris Hilton looks like a dead fish. Paris Hilton looks like she would just be like on her phone the whole time. Paris Hilton does not look like she is good sexually. And now here she is saying, yeah, I'm not really into sex. I'm not really like a big... Paris Hilton, undeniably beautiful, like a Barbie doll. Not sexy. Not sexy. Kim Kardashian, that's like a whole va-va-ka-va-va-voom kind of deal. All right, so that's why sex tape is trending. Paris Hilton is talking about hers. Vegan Reese's. Vegan Reese's is trending. Oh, look at this. They're coming in. They're coming from our Reese's Peanut Butter Cups. Reese's Peanut Butter Cups are the greatest candy. I will have no back talk on that. You either agree or you disagree. And if you disagree, you keep your mouth shut. And if you agree, you say, I agree, sir. Reese's Peanut Butter Cups. They're the absolute best candy. Followed by Candy Draft. Candy Draft. Reese's Peanut Butter Cups come in at number 1. The solid Hershey Bar, classic Hershey Bar comes in number 2. We're going to go with the Almond Joy at number 3. That's right. I said it. Almond Joy. We're going to go with, you know what we're going to go with? We're going to go with, you're going to hate me for this. We're going with Milk Duds at number 4. Milk Duds at number 4. And number 5, Gummy Bears. There you go. That concludes our candy draft. You know what was not included in the candy draft? Vegan Reese's. That's right. They're making Reese's now. The Hershey company is making Reese's Peanut Butter Cups vegan. I didn't know that there was red meat in, I guess milk, right? Milk chocolate. Would that be, that's what it is. It's not that there's meat or anything in chocolate. It's that chocolate is made with milk and milk is cows. We get it. We're there. We all got there at the same time. Actually, some of you probably before me. Hershey's, which makes Reese's, along with Hershey Bars, Kisses, and other chocolates and candies, announced 2 new dairy-free products on Tuesday. Reese's plant-based peanut butter cups. Plant-based peanut butter cups. I'll try them. And is there a reason I'm not lactose intolerant and I'm not a vegan? So what is it better for me? Because I really love Reese's Peanut Butter Cups. And if they taste the same, if there's no drop off in taste, if they taste the same, then why wouldn't, are they healthier for me? Or is this just, because I'm going to be vegan by choice? I don't know. So let's see here. The company is the latest to introduce a vegan chocolate in hopes that it will attract more customers, but Hershey is a little late to the game. Nestle introduced a vegan Kit Kat version back in 2021. Let's see here. There's a Chinese company, Hu, that makes vegan chocolate. And Hershey also initiated a test version of its product in 2021. In prepared remarks discussing the company's fourth quarter results, CEO Michelle Buck said that Better For You, which includes plant-based items, presented an opportunity for the company and will, quote, receive greater levels of support this year. All right, Better For You. So that's what they're saying that, they're making a concerted effort to create things, chocolates and candies that are better for you. The old man in me gets angry when I hear about a vegan Reese's. However, the decent, thoughtful human being in me goes, whatever. This is going to taste the same. Why would that bother me? Why would it bother me when I'm walking through the candy and I see a vegan? Why would that trigger me? It shouldn't. I don't give a shit. I'll either buy it or I won't. Somebody might. Oklahoma 820. This is a big one. Oklahoma 820, guys. Do you guys know what's happening in Oklahoma right now? Right now, today in Oklahoma, there is a referendum being voted on today. Polls close at 7 o'clock. It's very important on whether or not to legalize for recreational use marijuana in the state of Oklahoma. By 7 o'clock tonight, by the time you go to bed tonight, weed could be fully legal in Oklahoma. Now, here's what we know already. Medical marijuana is legal in Oklahoma. Medical marijuana has been legal in Oklahoma for a few years now. But Oklahoma did this very strange thing. Here, hold on. Let me make sure I get this full story for you. Here you go. Sorry. So when Oklahoma, our neighbor to the north, when they legalized medical marijuana, they legalized medical marijuana in what I think is the good way, not the bad way. And I'll give you an example of the bad way. My home state of Illinois legalized medical marijuana for about 5 or 6 years before they legalized recreational. So Illinois legalized medical marijuana. But the only way that you could get a medical marijuana card in Illinois when it was legal medically is if you had a disease that was literally killing you. You have to be diagnosed as being in late stage. It was the most restrictive medical marijuana law in the country. And that's why the state of Illinois just eventually went, you know what, this is stupid. Let's just make it all legal. So it all became legal. The other thing about the way Illinois did this is they made it extremely difficult to get a license in Illinois. If you were going to try and acquire a permit to grow medical marijuana or marijuana for recreational use or open a dispensary in Illinois, it was going to cost you millions to get that license. You were going to have to get some backers. You were going to have to shake some hands of politicians. It was like a lottery, There was X amount of licenses that were going to be given out, and you had to really get in line and you really had to know somebody. Oklahoma. That's Illinois. Now let's look at how Oklahoma did it. Oklahoma legalized medical marijuana. Oklahoma had no waiting list for a permit to grow medical marijuana. If you wanted to grow medical marijuana, all you needed in Oklahoma was $2,500. $2,500! And you could acquire a license from the state of Oklahoma to grow marijuana. Now, what happened here? Well, what happened was that everybody went out and got grow licenses. So Oklahoma is filthy with people growing marijuana right now. It's filthy. There are licenses everywhere. Everybody's growing. They grow too much. They grew way too much. There was way too much weed in Oklahoma. And it's only for medical people right now. And so what that means with it being only for medical is that only people who have medical cards issued by the state can purchase the marijuana in Oklahoma. So what's happening today? Today, they are trying to open that up. Remember, Oklahoma has this massive glut of weed that they can only sell to in-state residents who have the medical card, that have gone through the process. Now, it's not difficult to get a medical card. I talked about Illinois, about how you had to be dying of like stage 4 cancer before they would give you one. In Oklahoma, you can get a medical card for almost any reason whatsoever. They just hand them out. It's definitely not restrictive at all. So the people who want to get high legally and go through and see a doctor and get a prescription, those people all have their cards. But the problem is, those have to be people in state. Those are only people in Oklahoma who have Oklahoma cards issued to them by the state. They can't get what legalization on a recreational level will do. Now remember, giant glut of weed. They've got way too much weed because they've given out way too many grow licenses. They can't sell all the weed to the medical marijuana people because there's just not enough. There's not enough. The weed is going bad. People are losing money on weed. The price of weed in Oklahoma is cratering. So today, in order to try and save the medical marijuana industry or even the legal marijuana industry in Oklahoma, they are holding a vote, a referendum to see why not. Let's just make it totally legal. Let's forget about the medical thing. Let's put a moratorium on licenses so there won't be any more licenses. There won't be any more dispensaries, nothing like that. What'll happen is if it passes today, no more licenses will be given out. It'll now be legal on a recreational level, which means that not only can you just walk into a dispensary and buy your marijuana if you're over 21 in Oklahoma, but you won't have to go through any processes. You won't have to go talk to a doctor about how you want to smoke weed. You won't have to put your name on a list. So that is just in state alone, in the state of Oklahoma. That's just going to increase the business, right? So now remember, big glut of weed. You need to sell weed to somebody, and the amount of people that are buying the weed is not enough for the weed that's being grown. So now what does the legalized recreational also do? Well, it opens up the borders. And that's really what the growers in Oklahoma want. The growers in Oklahoma want people coming from Texas and just walking into a dispensary and buying a bunch of weed and then just driving it back to Texas. They don't give a shit. The growers and the people who own the dispensaries in Oklahoma don't give a shit if you get arrested crossing the border with a trunk full of legal weed that you purchased in Oklahoma that is suddenly illegal as you cross the Red River. They don't give a shit about that, but you know that's going to happen. So that's really what this is all about. It's about trying to jumpstart the economy because Oklahoma did this incredibly stupidly. They gave everybody a license and now everybody's growing. And then they said, but only certain people can buy. So you have all of this inventory and only a certain amount of people who can buy this inventory and all of it's almost worthless. It's like when you look at the situational, look at the way medical marijuana and then recreational marijuana has been done in other states. Some states, they're learning as they go. Some states have screwed, but almost every state is making money hand over fist except for Oklahoma because of the way Oklahoma did the grow licenses. $2,500, no cutoff on the amount of people who can be legalized or legal growers in Oklahoma. It's absolutely crazy. So fingers crossed tonight, maybe by the time you lay your head on your pillow, Oklahoma, the voters of Oklahoma may have completely legalized recreational weed in that state, which certainly the growers are going to be like, oh, thank God. Oh, thank God. Now maybe we can move some of this shit to people who just walk into our dispensaries off the street instead of having to have a card and go see a doctor and all that stuff. So that's Oklahoma. That's why Oklahoma weed, or actually it's why, Oklahoma 820 is trending. George Michael is trending. That's right, George Michael, my old neighbor. We never lived here at the same time, but George Michael did live across the street. The dude from Wham, wake me up before I go, lived right across the street. And it's funny too, because whenever I'm out in the neighborhood, there's a family that lives in George Michael's old Highland Park sex mansion. There's a family that lives there now, and they've got two little girls, and I always see these two little girls playing in the driveway. And whenever I pass by George Michael's old house, I always go, those two little innocent girls, the shit that probably went down in their bedrooms. Like, you know what I mean? Like George Michael was probably into some kinky stuff. There was probably some crazy stuff going on. And now it's just like this beautiful little young family that lives there. And I say beautiful because, they're filthy rich. They're like a filthy rich young family, but still, whatever. George Michael is trending because there is a new documentary coming out about his life, and it's getting incredible reviews. It's called Outed. It says here, George Michael, Outed review. This will make you love him even more than you did as a screaming teen. This documentary is getting tremendous reviews. Los Angeles, April 9th, 1998, 2 days after George Michael is arrested by an undercover police officer for performing a lewd act in a Beverly Hills public toilet, his cousin, Andros Georgiou, rushes from London to be by his side. Outside George Michael's house, this would be his LA house, outside George Michael's house, more than 50 international camera crews are gathered. There are helicopters overhead, paparazzi everywhere. His cousin circles the block trying to phone George. Finally, Michaels answers and apologizes for not picking him up. He was blow drying his hair. One of the many details in George Michael, Outed, that made me love him even more than I did as a screaming teenager. Anyway, this documentary goes through just like stuff. George Michael there's a lot of stuff. There's like a lot of like controversies. Nothing bad. Like George, there's nothing that George Michael ever did that you would be like, oh, that guy's an asshole. There's a whole bunch of stuff that George Michael got involved in that you're like, he's a kinky little bitch, isn't he? Like those kinds of things. Like nothing mean. So I'm looking forward to this. I'll watch George Michael, Outed. Let's see, what else do we have here? Here's a Study Find survey. You know how I love to do the Study Find survey. It says here, what does this one say? Nice people, Study Finds. It's a new study. Who put this out? Columbia University. All right, an Ivy League study. Nice people don't value money. Your personality may reveal your saving skills. Look at that. It doesn't hurt to be a little mean if you're looking to save more money. A new study says that nice people finish last when it comes to managing their finances, since they don't value it as much. Researchers from Columbia University explain that those who are more agreeable are the least likely to save money because they prioritize hanging out with people over material wealth. Meanwhile, highly conscientious people may be more motivated to plan for the future and save funds. Moreover, if your personality matches your saving goals, you will keep more cash. I have no idea what that study has told me. It just tells me that they believe, according to the study, that nice people, they're not dicks about money, and that if you're a dick about money, chances are you're going to have more of it at the end of the day than everybody else. Bob Ross is trending. Bob Ross is trending for a very strange reason. I want to share this with you. This is the new trailer that is out. Owen Wilson has a new movie out called Paint. Okay. We all know Bob Ross. Bob Ross, dude with the fro. My 13-year-old kid loves Bob Ross. Bob Ross must be like a meme, right? He must be used a lot in memes. Because how else would my 13-year-old kid know who Bob Ross is? No idea. All right. So Owen Wilson, this is so weird. Owen Wilson is making a new movie, or he's made a new movie. It's called Paint. Okay. And it's basically, he's playing Bob Ross. It's like, this is not the Bob Ross story, okay? This is not a movie about Bob Ross, but it's about a guy who's kind of like Bob Ross. He's a painter, and he paints on TV at a local PBS station, right? So he's like, it's all Bob Ross stuff. But this isn't the Bob. His character's name is Carl. His character's name is Carl. But I want to show you the trailer because, first of all, it looks good. It looks like a fun movie. It looks like something I'd be interested in. But secondly, I just find it amazing that I think Owen Wilson took on this project and went, okay, so I'm going to use as my center to create this character. I'm going to use Bob Ross. I'm going to be that. And then he never left Bob Ross. It's like it'd be like if you were starring in a movie where you played a cop. You know, it's like a cop and your partner, and you're going after a serial killer. And one of the cops just dresses like Elvis. You know what I mean? Like he's just full on jumpsuit and he just looks like, and they never mention it. They're never like, why do you look like you're cosplaying Elvis? You're like, no, it's just a character, man. My character has lamb chops and jumpsuits. That's weird. So I want to show you this trailer of Owen Wilson playing Bob Ross, but not calling the character Bob Ross anyway, just watch it. You'll enjoy it. Looks like a good movie. And this is for the new Owen Wilson film called Paint. Here we go.
Help you get what's in here and just splash it onto there. Don't worry, it's not rocket science. It's harder. Thanks for going to a special place with me, Carl Nargle.
Cut it.
That tree is probably too tall. Brace yourself, you are gonna get some calls from that.
Mr. Nargle, it is an honor to meet you, sir.
Wait, what's going on?
Hi, friends, and welcome to Paint with Ambrosia.
It takes paint to a whole new place, and it's been a lot of places.
Good night, everyone.
I've never seen him that mad.
Does this mean I'm your peers? Don't let fame bring out the worst in you.
A real man never looks back. These the new tote bags.
It's only because yours weren't selling.
You're lucky I'm an artist instead of a woman who says really mean things to other women.
You were an artist.
A real artist follows his heart. My Uber is here.
I don't know what that is.
It's goodbye.
How's everything going?
Awesome.
What's the image tucked away in your brain that makes your heart ache and your soul feel like it's going to burst?
Carl is one-dimensional and very sexist. You know I don't care what people say about me.
CBS Burlington.
Carl stole my newspaper.
Yes, we're aware that Carl is stealing newspapers. Please hold.
All right, there you go. That's the weird, right? I mean, he's playing Bob Ross, but he's not claiming to be Bob Ross. That's pretty strange. All right, that's it. That's all I have as far as stuff that we've prepared for today. So now let's jump into Twitter. Let's see exactly what's happening here. And hold on, just gonna jump in. Nope, not gonna touch that. We stay away from the political things that are trending. Nope, not gonna touch that. Nope, not gonna touch that. Ken Burns. Why is Ken Burns trending? What did he do? What did Ken Burns do something and now people are mad at him? It says here, Ken Burns hit the nail on the head in regards to, okay, Ken Burns is out there talking about Tucker Carlson. Okay, that's why Tucker Carlson is trending too. We don't get into that stuff. Barry is trending. Barry is trending along with Bill Hader. I love Barry. Barry on HBO. Amazing series. One of the sneaky best series of the last 10 years, easily. Barry on HBO is brilliant. Bill Hader is a genius. And the final season of Barry will start on April the 16th with Barry in prison. Barry's in prison. I don't want to spoil it for you. Shut up. Barry's been off the air for, the last season ended a year ago. I can talk about what's happening with Barry. Barry, new season coming to HBO April 16th. Not only new season, but final season. Ooh, I love Barry. Let's see here. UMass is trending. Lamar. Okay, why is Lamar trending? Did he resign? Or did he get franchise tagged? What's happening with Lamar Jackson? A lot of talk about Lamar Jackson going to Atlanta. Report the Falcons have very real interest in trading for the Ravens quarterback Lamar Jackson. The Lamar Jackson conference. I could see him fitting down there. I could see him fitting in Atlanta. But what I can't understand, and maybe this is because, again, I'm a Chicago Bear fan, and we haven't had a decent NFL quality quarterback since 1947 with Sid Luckman. So maybe I look at this from a completely different perspective. But I could not imagine being an NFL team with a franchise quarterback like Lamar Jackson and allowing him to go to a different team in his prime. What does Baltimore think quarterbacks just grow on trees? I just said, my Bears, we haven't had a quarterback since 1947. You're just going to let Lamar Jackson walk? Who do you got behind him? I saw who you got behind him. You got another Lamar Jackson type behind him who isn't quite as good as Lamar Jackson. I will be stunned if the Baltimore Ravens cut ties with Lamar Jackson. That would be he's tremendous. He's 3 years. Is it 3 years? I think it'll be 3 years now. 3 years since winning, 2 years maybe, since winning an NFL MVP. And you're going to let your franchise former NFL MVP quarterback walk for what? Whatever limitations you think Lamar Jackson has and how he adversely affects what you want to do with your offense there in Baltimore, you need to look beyond Lamar Jackson and figure out who's going to come in that is going to be able to do everything else to the level of Lamar Jackson, because you're not going to get that. Lamar Jackson is a superstar. Lamar Jackson is a winner. Now, granted, he hasn't won anything yet. He won an MVP award. And you know what? That team, that is not a terrible team. You can win with Lamar Jackson as your quarterback. It's just stunning to me that the Baltimore Ravens would be so unaware of how difficult. I mean, all you need to do is look around at the rest of the NFL right now. Look around at the rest of the NFL. Look at how many teams are desperate for a franchise quarterback, and Baltimore has one, and they're going to let this guy pay him. Why you got to pay Lamar Jackson? Pay him. What else do we have here? Cinnamon Toast Crunch. Cinnamon Toast Crunch is trending. I like when Cinnamon Toast Crunch trends because I am a fan of Cinnamon Toast Crunch. I think that Cinnamon Toast Crunch is quite possibly the best grown-up cereal on the market. And I make the distinction grown-up because there are a lot of children's cereals that are delicious. My God. Super Sugar Smacks. I could eat like a box of Super Sugar Smacks a day. I could Tricks. I could eat Lucky Charms. I could eat a box of Lucky Charms every single day. But I don't because they're filled with sugar and they're children's. I know Cinnamon Toast Crunch is filled with sugar too, but it seems a bit more sophisticated. Cinnamon Toast Crunch seems a bit more elegant. So it is one of my favorite of the adults. I do consider it adult. Because the cinnamon, okay, wait a second, now I got to think about it. I was going to say I consider it adult because there's not like a big cartoon character on the box. But do they have like anthropomorphic Cinnamon Toast Crunches with like big white hands and stuff? I don't know. All right, now I got to pull up a Cinnamon Toast Crunch box. I got to see if it looks like an adult box or a kid box. Cinnamon Toast Crunch. Let's see what the box looks like. Nope, we're good. Yeah, it's an adult box. There are no like cartoon cinnamon toasts with big giant white hands. Oh, there is. Oh, kinda. Oh man, I don't know, kinda. I don't know what to make of that. Like some of the in the bowl on the box, there's a depiction of a bowl filled with Cinnamon Toast Crunch. In the bowl, some of the Cinnamon Toast Crunches have faces. All right, so maybe it's a grown-up candy or a grown-up cereal. I don't know. Or maybe it's not a grown-up cereal. All right, what else is happening here? I like Cinnamon Toast Crunch. Don't know why it's trending. Don't care to know why it's trending. I just see that it is trending. Why is Barkley trending? Is this Saquon or Charles? We need to know. Saquon or Charles? Okay, it looks like it's Charles. It's Charles Barkley who's trending. That would make more sense. Although Saquon Barkley, he's in a free agent year, so he could be trending as well. Something interesting could be happening with him. Either the Giants re-sign him or they announce that they're not re-signing. Whatever. Doesn't matter. But it is Charles Barkley who is trending. Charles Barkley. He's got a mouth. He talks. He says things. Guys, that's it. We're done. We are out of show. That's going to do it. Appreciate you stopping by here. We do this every Monday through Friday from noon till whenever the news runs out. That's right. Whenever the news runs out. That's how we do it. I like to shoot for 2 hours. Today we made it an hour and 40 minutes. We'll be back tonight. Oh, what's happening here? We'll be back tonight at 9 o'clock for Pugs and Parker. Probably present Pillow Talk, more conversational than this show. This show's about topics. It's just me. It's just me streaming, just literally streaming and stream of consciousness streaming about all the events of the day. That doesn't happen at 9 o'clock. At 9 o'clock, it's me and Parker. We've been having a lot of guests. We had Cody Dangling Burleson on last night. That was fun. Cody Dangling Burleson, former Live 105.3 producer, everything guy. I don't know who we got tonight. We may not have anybody tonight. We got so much stuff that I've been wanting to talk about with Parker and even E. So I'd like to do that tonight. I don't know. In the next couple hours is when we put that show together. So we don't know. We'll see how it works out.
Tomorrow is another day. The best is yet to come.
The best is yet to come.
I have found a different way.
All right. No, thank you, Frank Smith. By the way, you can also donate to the show. You can hit us up on Venmo or Cash App. We're not really making our nut, and it's been very difficult. So anything you can drop in the coffers, that would be greatly appreciated. We're going on like we're entering our third month of not making our bills. So we'll see if something changes. Hopefully it will. In the meantime, if you like the show and you want to drop a little something into the coffers, treat me like I'm your barista, treat me like I'm your pizza delivery guy, treat me like I'm your bartender, whatever it is, whoever you tip. Drop a little something if you stop by the show every Monday through Friday, or even if just on occasion. Hell, I don't care. You don't even have to listen. If you don't even listen and somebody tells you, you can tip without listening. That's fine. That'll work. Right there at the bottom of the screen. Drop a little something if you can. I'd appreciate it. All right. Back tonight at 9 o'clock for Pugs and Parker. And if you can't make that, I'll see you tomorrow at noon, because we do this every Monday through Friday at noon. It's High Noon with me, Pugs Moran, here on the Radio Misfits podcast platform. I love you. Bye.
I am on a never-ending quest. I am on a never-ending quest.